Okay, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the Level Up podcast, live stream, YouTube video, every asset out there possible. I'm Emily. I'm hosting today and bringing on some super powered individuals, Juan and Juan David. I'm gonna, I guess, throw it to you guys to introduce yourselves. But today we're talking about our project, Sleeping on LATAM. And I think that's the central question we'll be answering today. So I'll start with Juan David, I guess. Please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, this is Juan David. I'm from Colombia. Well, it's been a while I don't present myself in this type of settings, but I will say that I like to help people in order to onboard Ethereum. That's like my mission in the last 4 years, having different roles, starting Ethereum Bogota here in my city, then meeting with different people with ETH Colombia, and that had scaled to collaborate with LATAM, and right now I work with EthKipu. Our mission is to integrate LATAM to the broader Ethereum ecosystem. So that's my mission.
Cool.
Great. And another Juan,
Mhm.
pun intended. Hello, everybody. Happy to be back on the screen with the Scroll community, Level Up community now. And I'm Juan, of course, working with a lot of our community initiatives at Scroll, and being from LATAM, throwing a little bit extra love to my region here, and very happy to be in this call, sharing more about what Kipu has accomplished in the last few months, and getting to know a little bit more firsthand from someone so great like Juan David.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And I want to give I guess, like a big shout out to Juan, the first guy who pilled me on Latam. I think before I even joined Scroll, he was trying to push, like you wrote out like a full document on Notion. I was like, oh, is this like illegal to share this information? But it's not, right? We're all open source
Yeah.
information. And I don't know. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to join Scroll and kind of see firsthand when I went to Argentina and then I met Juan David, like more and more kind of what the Latam community looks like, and hopefully evangelize it past my personal experience out to any project really interested in growing their presence globally. I know from my perspective and like my work history, part of GTM is always like, where should we target? Let's choose our regions. And I'm excited to bring you guys on to kind of give like the full picture. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into EthKipu. Juan David, if you can kind of tell me about, the history, maybe dive into a bit of like your goals, but and like successes you've reached, and then the fun things like the challenges and what's hard about growing something like this. You know, generally in Latam, I'm not sure. You take it how you
Yeah.
want. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get back to like a couple of weeks that we were in Buenos Aires. Actually, but that time we were there were that has passed 2 years since ETH Latam at Buenos Aires. That was a really important point. DEFCON was coming to the region. I mean, Bogota was the host, but was more for logistical reasons, was better to have it in Bogota, in Colombia. And the Argentinian community has played an important role worldwide. And later we can talk about all the projects that have been born in Argentina. And a group of people started ETH Latam at Buenos Aires. The name is supposed to include all the region, but actually this is quite controversial. There's like a couple of people and some leaders that resonate with a vision around Ethereum, and there's a diversity of different approaches. So for me, that was a really important point. ETH Latam to 2022, and then we moved to ETH Latam in Bogota because we were having the day before DEFCON to have once again a conference onboarding new people to a region that we believe has this potential of having more people using crypto as a way to solve real world problems that we face in countries like myself, like here living in Colombia. We have a lot of people coming from Venezuela and they have to send remittances back to their home country, and crypto is the best way to bypass all these problems that they are facing with their government. And in ETH Colombia, in ETH LATAM, in Bogota, for example, I met Juan, and we start to dream on a vision how we can coordinate and having a bigger vision and organization that can help us to bring education to the region. So we have those two main events, ETH Buenos Aires and Bogota. And fast forward, now this year we had ETH and San Pedro Sula in Honduras. So EthKipu as an organization, we are a grantee from the EF, and we're just one player that want to bring open and free education to the people in the different countries that speak Spanish and Portuguese. So right now our goal is to onboard more builders and to teach them solidity and to level up on their way to start building not on the Ethereum ecosystem, which is really big. The challenges that we face right now is how we can understand as an organization. Right now we are a foundation, and where we can bring the most value. And we believe we have matured in these 2 years on a point that we can, for example, start to explore some collaboration with governments. And right now, all of the movement that is called Crecimiento help us to connect to the Ministry of Education. This has been something that we have been working in the past few months. And after Ethereum Argentina, we did something Ethereum Argentina for the youth or for youngsters, where we start to teach them and to show them that there is a big opportunity for them of professional development in Ethereum. So that was the kickstart to start experimenting. This is just a proof of concept on how we can bring a blockchain curriculum to the high school. So right now, that's the challenge, how we can have an audience. I remember I was really scared a bit doing this conference in front of 200 youngsters and talking about something that I'm used to talk about, but with usually grown-ups that they want to be there. So it was really interesting, and they told me that was a really good talk, and I felt that I just send a message and hope to plant a seed for them to see this new technology as a way for them to grow and to build something that is useful for them and their communities. So right now we are thinking how we can take Ethereum and this technical knowledge to high schools, and this is something that we would love to discuss and to get ideas.
That's wild. I completely agree with you. I feel like I'm so used to talking to grown-ups, and it's it's my bread and butter, right? But then when it comes to I heard you guys were starting to talk to high schoolers, and I was like, "This is amazing," but, also the bravest thing I've ever heard, I don't know, Skibidi Toilet? I think that's my only association with Gen Alpha right now, so, but yeah, I do, I think when it comes to onboarding, that's a really interesting question I wanna dive into probably a little bit more with both of you, right? Um, how did you guys get into, Web3, hear about it? I don't is it any different than kind of your average Joe's journey? What was the learning process for you? Yeah, I guess Juan.
Yeah. So I'll go with this one. So I think this is a great characteristic of Latin America as a whole, which I like that Juanda prefaced with the first ETH LATAM in Argentina, which kickstarted a lot of the Ethereum movement in Latin America. Um, Hence, because of DevCon coming to Latin America, Bogota, I think it did a huge impact. Now you have all these local communities working together, etc. And that's basically how I joined the Ethereum ecosystem, was through my local community. A friend of mine who's a very he's an Ethereum OG within the community in Latin America, who kickstarted this initiative in Honduras to share with people that there's this space where people can build public goods, and you can skip all the bureaucracy of getting funded through these entrepreneurship or startup programs that take years and give little funding. So it was very interesting to me that there was a very small group of people in Honduras talking about these very interesting topics that are a pain for us in Latin America, which is how to raise funds for startups. And I joined this community, and from the get-go, ever since I joined the first meetup, I continued contributing in many different ways. That led me to learn more about Ethereum. That was the real ethos. That was like actually learning the ethos of Ethereum was, like growing within this community and supporting, seeing how this community supported us as well, how we were creating something out of nowhere. And my community, they actually sponsored me to go to DevCon in Bogota, and that was my first Ethereum event actually. And from there, it was just like a super insane roller coaster of things happening that led me to now be able to contribute from within Scroll. But essentially, my stepping stone was my local community, and that's why I feel so strongly about how local communities can actually make this impact of getting people to work on projects within the ecosystem, raising funds for their projects, just learning. I mean, also just being aware of what's going on out there. Yeah, I think local communities are a big player, especially in Latin America. Honda?
Yeah, I started with a really fun project, just building something with a friend during the pandemic that we were trapped in our rooms and trying to do cool stuff. I was working as a front end developer back in the days, and with this friend that we just met on a meetup, more like blockchain, I remember it was for Blockchain Colombia. We met and we decided to build a platform to use smart contracts as a way to coordinate a learning experience. So that was the mixture of education plus something new that I was building. And we used that platform that is called Coinosis to start the calls that we had with Ethereum Bogota. So basically, it was a smart contract where people were depositing money and were participating on a call. And after that, the smart contract was receiving or transfer back the funds that were on that contract. So it was like a building and showing something to the community, and definitely having DevCon coming to Colombia. Some folks from the EF just like contacted me and told me, "Hey, you are doing something interesting. Let's connect you with some other folks that are doing the same around the country." And that's why we had this experiment that right now is called ETH Colombia, that having DEFCON coming to the country led us to had a good round on the quadratic funding from DEFCON, and since then on we have been working in different nodes around the country. So yeah, that was my journey in the first years, and then I was like looking for where I can contribute the most value.
Yeah, I don't want to drift away too much, but I want to add here and ask you a question here, Honda. Do you think like there's another big player for me that once again you mentioned that like the EF through the DevCon efforts reached out to you to connect. I think a lot of this has to do with this one player in the region who was on the ground reaching out to communities, supporting, attending. And that was Skylar. I think Skylar did an amazing effort. Like he really set the precedent of what building an Ethereum community should be looking like in Latin America, and he kickstarted a lot of these initiatives. So I think Skylar's efforts shouldn't. He's very humble about it, but like I really think he's done a great deal for us. These small interactions of connecting, of being there, of being present, motivating us in Latin America has done a great deal. That's why I think that it's very important for us supporting regions and local communities to actually be there and be present. Wouldn't you? What do you think about that Skylar's efforts on the region?
Definitely. I was checking my Telegram, and with Skylar, I have 57 groups. And while I was working with him, he was always connecting me with, "Hey, I met this person in Nicaragua. You should talk to
Mm.
him." Well, also I work with him with the DEFCON team, but that work of showing up to the conference, to the side events, and just like talk with people, that's the way to build a community. That this is something that don't scale, but definitely is how you go and to plant the seed and the roots start to do their things. And he was like just a connector. And I think someone like Skylar, and we joke like the godfather, like
Mm.
And not the Godfather in the sense of the Mario Puzo and this, but like the like the padrino, we say it in Spanish, like it's like your father, but it's someone that just like takes care of you and is like looking forward for you to grow and to support you. And Skylar is definitely that person.
Yeah, shout out to my man Skyler. Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Wild. I want to follow the conversation. Actually, my next question was like, why LATAM? Maybe we can. That's probably a good setting stone. But I think Juan, you mentioned like, oh, he was approaching it in the right way, and I kind of wanted to just like, what do you call it? Condense that answer, right? Like, what is the right way to, like, I guess, seed, grow, and scale LATAM communities, right? Because those are two different things. I think Juan David, you said it yourself, right? Ah, this doesn't scale, but it was amazing. Um, like, what are your strategies, for a project coming into LATAM? How do we start?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think there's exactly a right way, but more like this is something that we have discussed with Skylar. It was like a big conversation we had at some point where we were getting very philosophical. It's about, like who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong. And matter of fact, is like impact is just a net positive thing that, each community has its own way of achieving. So from Mexico all the way to Argentina, you're gonna see that each community does things differently uh, based on like what their local community does, and it's all a matter of um, what are your goals? Are you achieving those goals? And then for projects coming into support, it means being on the like being on the ground, supporting where people need us to support, and not trying to like push our agenda. More so like, oh, these guys are doing this. How can we support that initiative? So, for example, let's see what comes to mind. Um, Argentina is very focused on builders, and they have an insane amount of builder communities. They have a lot of context of, like the unicorn projects being built down there. So there's this builder approach that projects can support based on that. In other regions, like for example, I don't know, I want to say, for example, Mexico, they're more interested on like user facing applications and dApps and stuff like that. Learning more about research. There's a few people like doing research in Mexico. All right, why don't we support in this manner? But overall, like the most important is being on the ground. LATAM is a huge region. It's from Mexico all the way to Argentina. Like I don't know, like 600 million people, something like that. And there's many angles. There's different problems, but we do have a big advantage in Latin America, and that's that we all share something in common, and that's the language. So we, for the most part, we all speak Spanish, and we also have our brothers in Brazil who speak Portuguese. But in general, it's very easy for us to communicate, and that has been made it very accessible for projects to, or these communities to interact with each other. So I think it's more of like, yeah, as I said, like there's no right way to do it. Each community does it how they see best fit for their local needs. And for us, projects is about supporting those needs and what they're building, and continue motivating them to do that, to continue building net positive impact. Is what Skylar and I narrowed it down to.
Yes, very narrow. But I like what you mentioned about the language thing, because I think I never thought about, the opportunity in LATAM is big purely by the fact that communities collaborating across what, like two different continents, like is a frictionless experience with regards to like shared language, right? So that's like, yeah, it's not something I really thought about, and especially kind of as someone who's just like a native English speaker, and that's all I've been kind of steeped in. I think really stepping into Argentina and being surrounded by a whole new like culture and language and everybody all over speaking that same language was cool. It was enlightening. And to that point, I want to reel it back to, I think, my leading question in the beginning was like, what is the opportunity in LATAM? I think we were all talking about why it's great, but what is it that makes it great?
I can jump in there and iterate on this idea that we share the same language and it's a really diverse and different region. So you can do different experiments. I was recalling my time after, I mean, I started Ethereum Bogota and I was working full time with Status, the wallet and the messaging protocol, and we were discussing a lot about how we can make tools that are censorship resistant. So within a same continent, you have countries that are having that type of problem. And checking something that is happening right now, Brazil right now is facing this legal conflict. I'm not into the details about that, but X is closing there, and Brazilians are not able to use X. So as someone has captured that, like, decentralization only matters when decentralization matters, which means that usually as users we are not aware of that, but we have these institutions that can fail us. And having a country, for example, like Venezuela, that is not having payments and they are using crypto to send money back to their country, is just like the best way to see like how blockchain technology is something that is useful. And you don't have to explain them the importance of money or what value is, because they live in a daily life, same as Argentina is like the best example of why you have success, because you have the opportunity and the preparation on the right time to build the products that you need. So that's what's the opportunity there. This is a region where you have different problems. You have Venezuela with a dictatorship, facing like human right threats, and you have an unstable country in economic terms, which is Argentina. So you can go there and experiment. We have countries like Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. Actually, they have some I don't know how to say this, like some conventions and some deals to have like the stock market to work, so there's some stability there, so we don't face this like inflation. But maybe, as Juan was saying, Mexicans, they're really good developing user apps, though, so they have exchanges. So you have like three like broad cases of having a way to experiment with the technology and having different angles in order to find product market fit and then to scale that. So I think that's like the diversity and this common culture, a good way to a project as a scroll to go there and to see how the technology can have like this impact.
Yeah. Also want to add there, I think um, something really important that I think Vitalik had to highlight last year was, Ethereum is meant to be this technology, this cypherpunk technology that helps us solve real world issues and like bring real world impact. And I think LATAM needs a lot of it. And we have proven in Latin America that we can leverage this technology and actually, make a difference. I think that's very powerful. You get to see, for example, I don't know, a person living on minimum wage of $300 jump to a honest opportunity into Web3 for a couple $1,000. That's already like a huge impact, and that's only jobs that we're talking about here. So imagine like the opportunities, and for example, Argentina, as Juan David mentioned, to store value with stable coins, in Venezuela to send remittances from the outside without government intervention. Um, how do you like provide censorship resistance in the middle of a dictatorship? How do you provide transparency? How do you make non-fraudulent voting systems? So all these things are very important for Latin America because we lack all of these solutions. So in the rest of the world, solutions that you give for granted that you already have, per se, in like in the Web2 world, a lot of those are lacking in Latin America. So the jump to Web3 doesn't make it makes just all sense. So we need to um, create more exposure for the technology, and I think that's why all these communities are so amazing to have in each one of these countries that can like bring the local context of each country and identify how to use it, how to use it. So yeah, I mean, I think that Ethereum can literally be life saving in Latin America, and I think that's why it's so important.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, I think so relevant just from the perspective of like, I think what people in LATAM like sincerely just understand the use case. Literally yesterday, I was talking to my boyfriend's mom. Background, she is like a very like trad fi, used to work in trading, like JP Morgan, etc. And she was like asking about crypto, and all of her questions were only about it from like the DeFi degen point of view, right? And it's such like a narrow use case where I think Latam for me is a very exciting opportunity because it, the possibilities are much wider, I think, when the understanding of it is also much wider, right? So to that point, I kind of want to ask the question in the negative direction, in the sense of like, why do companies deprioritize Latam, right? Like, because it feels to me like it feels like the right place to be. But there are projects that say like, maybe that's not our focus. XYZ is our focus. And what do you think the motivations are there?
So I'm gonna jump in here. So I think once again, as of late, I've been of this philosophy of like that net positive philosophy of, hey, like there's actually no wrong way to do these things in the Ethereum ecosystem. But
Hmm.
essentially, how I see it is, it's important for projects and protocols to find product market fit, to find capital, and in Europe, in APAC, in America, that at some point will then translate to the emerging market regions like Latin America. So I think, I think it is important for projects to prioritize and make sure that they work. And at some point, um, I think part of this whole thing is, permissionlessness and stuff like that. So I think for us Latin Americans, it's also important to reach out, so to these projects that are not prioritizing in the region or whatever, or that don't have exposure in the region, to bring them to the region, to showcase what's going on, etc. But yeah, and then as to why is, well, yeah, I think that they need to find product market fit, and I think that's the first priority. And then secondly is because um yeah, I guess like people just don't know enough that they have this insane region from Mexico to Argentina, that we all speak the same language, basically, that we all have a bunch of difficulties. But also I think it's really hard as well to like penetrate in terms of like a local country. Like we're talking about real world use cases. It will definitely be like a huge challenge to penetrate a government. So for example, we speak to how like Ethereum can definitely solve some of like the censorship stuff in Venezuela, how the transparency and the corruption things. But how is it going to be to penetrate that government and position a tool that will make the government more transparent? It's going to be definitely tough. So I think we're still like very early in the course of like massive adoption, but I think we shouldn't sleep on Latin America. Continue bringing exposure to what the region is capable of, bring in more exposure so that whenever we do try to penetrate, everyone in the country is aware of this tool, and they can like back it up, I guess. Panda, what do you think?
Yeah. I was thinking in the terms of also this low ticket for the companies to come here. Maybe in the short term that doesn't make sense, but also, so I agree with that thesis. And in my experience, I have two examples coming to mind. For example, I remember I talked with some local partners that ETH Global had for ETH Mexico 2 years ago, and for them was hard to understand like the culture of doing business in a broad sense, like how to throw an event. And for example, I remember they were having some struggles bringing merch to the event, so they will have to deal with this uncertainty, and that's something that happens. There are corruption, and they will have to it was even trying to consider bribing the authorities to get the boxes with the t-shirts coming to the event. So that from the outside is hard to understand why we have this type of culture, which is a shame, but is how you do things on the ground. So when you face that type of friction, you start to considering, do I want to have a company there? That's one hypothesis on the event logistics side. But also there's a stigma around, like, for example, while I was working getting sponsorship for LATAM, one protocol was aware about the security in Honduras in San Pedro Sula, because what you don't know, you just like, you think it's a threat, and you have this like these headlines that you have around a region, because it's not the country, it's just like a region. And just same as Colombia, when we were having DEFCON, I remember some important like, I don't know if to call them influencers. I don't want to call this person out, but they were saying that that was like too risky, and they are not coming to Colombia because they were thinking that they could have like some personal experience, or their security was going to be compromised in a trip to Colombia, for example. I understand that we have this stigma, but once you come here, you get in love with the people, the nature, the culture that we have. So maybe they are not coming yet, so they don't form their own opinion about how you can build things here. So that will be my two angles for why they prioritize the region.
That's why being on the ground is super important. Like getting that context and like the people who's doing like the underground work. That's why I think like it's so cool to like have Skylar. Skylar has like been to every single country, I think, in Latin America, and you know, he has made his effort to, oh, this is what's really happening in the region. And I think that's also something that might be missing in a few projects. But the positive side of this is, Wanda, don't you think that looking back, I don't know, even like 1 year ago, do you think there's definitely more eyes in Latin America now?
I definitely think they are. I mean, people just come here, and actually, if we just like zoom out, like not just crypto, if you see, for example, Medellin, which is an amazing city that right now is a digital nomad hub. So people are understanding that here they can come, they can live, they can have a good time, and also do business and create a life here. Just like not talking just about like crypto in a more broad sense. Like there are some hubs that are attracting talent. Buenos Aires as well is a hub for people to live and to create things to solve people's problems. So I mean, that's just a process that you have to nurture in order to have successes.
Yeah, yeah.
To that point, what are some like notable Latin projects that we can celebrate then? Just like show off, what's going on.
Flagship projects mean like even like um, Open Zeppelin, Decentraland, POAP, and I'm just in Argentina at this point. But yeah, if you expand it even to, I don't know, Mexico, super exchange OGs in like Bitso, community grassroots projects like Bando. Um, yeah, I mean like every single country has like their own standout project or achievement, I would say. Who do you celebrate, Honda?
I would say from Colombia, Tropicus. They are doing DeFi for with Bitcoin and also integrated Polygon. So I really like what they are doing of doing financial education and showing people that they can save and they can have a better payment system using their infrastructure. So I will go for them like as a Colombian representative.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Cravata too, I think is a great project in Colombia. Great, what do we call it? Change as a service project in Colombia that enables local builders to build with their tooling for on-off ramp dApps. So and I think Colombia is a great example. I think it's the first example that I saw outside. Yeah, I think one of the first examples that I saw where this notion or idea of um, APAC capital being invested in emerging market regions, which was one of the things that when I joined Scroll, Sandy spoke to me very dearly about was, hey Juan, imagine like in the near future, how can Scroll enable capital from all over the world to come to places like Latin America and benefit projects and builders there. Um, and I know that for a fact that there's now like VCs from APAC now investing in projects in Colombia, which is very, very, very cool to me. It was very interesting. Um, it just, leads the way for what's to come. I think that's gonna be happening more and more to create more high quality projects. Cravata being one of them. I really like what they're doing. Yeah.
I am curious from like a general point of view, and I want to stop saying like in LATAM because you guys are so many different countries. So feel free to just divide country by country. There's just too many for me to name individually. Like, can you describe what it's like? But like tech culture in general, like what is the startup vibe like, right? Because I have like what is, government perception towards new projects like VCs, all these like different building blocks of just what a tech ecosystem looks like. I'm not sure, you know, I guess like Medellin would be a great example as like a digital hub, right? In the same way, like how are universities like growing this type of innovation? What is that like? Are there any? What are the strong like technical universities that would be good ones to reach out to or get in touch with? I didn't fully formulate this question, but whatever. It's a guided discussion.
Guided discussion. Agree.
Yeah.
Panda, you wanna take a jab?
Yes, yes, the tech culture here on the academic side, something that really interesting that happened during Ethereum Argentina is that we create this Schelling point for different universities to coordinate around blockchain clubs. So EthKipu is serving as a meeting point for them to connect. We had obviously a lot of universities from Argentina, but we have some representatives from Chile, from Guatemala. So there is going to be, I see in the next few years, this new wave of blockchain clubs. Definitely, academia is highly influenced by what is going on in the US and Europe. So they told me that the way they go through convince a dean of a university is to have a blockchain club. Is they show, hey, universities like Stanford, Harvard, they have their own blockchain clubs. Why don't we have one here? So that's a way to start, like to create the culture from the universities. Also, something that we have been doing as EthKipu is to start to explore some partnerships with public universities as well, with high quality education. For example, in Chile and Peru, we are already talking with universities, and we are in the process of just like having a deal with like this open source curriculum that we have designed for them to take to the universities. So our take as an organization, EthKipu, is going through that, like to crypto pill universities that had this like potential. Same here, for example, in Medellin, we had like a really good experience with a public university doing our Ethereum developer pack. So they understood that this is something that moves fast. For us, it's hard to keep up. For the universities, even harder. So that's an effort, and there's some openness of universities to take new technology like blockchain into the curriculum. And more on the startup side, what I have seen, for example, here in Colombia, after Rappi being like this unicorn, there is a group of people that call themselves the Rappi Mafia. So some co-founders like have branch and have created new startups. So Rappi is having a huge impact here in Colombia and around the region, coordinating and mentoring new startups. Some of them are applying, and there are a lot of cases going through a Y Combinator. So that's also like this important like point of reference, serve as a guiding point. In Argentina, I know Mercado Libre is like what some of the founders look up to, and that's why this culture started to create with these unicorns that inspire other builders to dream big.
Yeah, but definitely not easy though. I think in Latin America in general, it's not easy to have these startups. I mean, as I mentioned, I onboarded to Ethereum because I was coming from like the startup ecosystem in Honduras, as well as Chris Garner, who you may already know, Juanda. And for us in the startup ecosystem locally, what did it mean to be a startup? It meant participating in a government program to raise some funds. What did the program consist of? A year or two of like boot camp style activities to learn how to build a startup, to then receive some funding at the end of those 2 years for say $2,000. And then you go back and you say, okay, was 2 years worth $2,000? And then it's like rip. And then most of the times also like, sometimes, they just wouldn't pay for those programs, or they will leave you hanging. Government changed, so the program got dropped. So it's definitely not easy. I think similarly across Latin America, it could be a little bit difficult to start a startup, and that's where, at least in Honduras, that was like one of the first things that motivated our community, was coming from that startup, because like we were all basically coming from like the startup ecosystem, coming to a place where we could build public goods, create a QF round, letting people decide based on like the merits of each project how to divide that funding, and doing that in a very seamless and smooth process was insane. That was like mind-boggling for us. It was like, what the fuck just happened? In the course of like a meetup and a couple of weeks, we were able to allocate this amount of funds, and people started building. That was great. So I think in Latin America in general, I think Ethereum and the Web3 ecosystem in general, which is so fast, so speedy, um, it can be a double-edged sword, but I think it will definitely be supporting projects to be built um, locally. So being a startup, tough. Ethereum can make it easier. I think so, 100%.
Amazing. I think this is a good segue when you mention about like timelines, right? Like for projects entering LATAM, like what are the short-term versus long-term plays? And we have a live stream comment from Gabriel talking about like localization of everything. That feels very short-term. I think we can check that off the box of like, what are things we can immediately do. But yeah, I mean, other than that, you have any other suggestions, insights, advice?
Yeah,
Um,
I think short term, at least how we've done at Scroll, it's a lot about understanding, about getting context, about setting our, like becoming available to people in the region. So, making these small hanging fruit initiatives to reach out, to say hello, to connect with local communities. And at least to me, I mean, I still feel strongly about using or to like interacting with local communities in Latin America as the stepping stone, or like the very first um, step into the region, um, and build on top of that. So, okay, cool. We've interacted with this community. They're doing this, amazing things, or we could be supporting or adding more value in this manner. And then that has translated now to like bigger initiatives, for example, in Argentina with the Level Up Hackathon. Now, having a natural context of what's happening. Okay, how can we really add value? Okay, there's a strong dev community. Let's support devs. Okay, let's bring something like Level Up Hackathon and promote builders in the region, right? So I think there's local communities all over Latin America that are, you know, looking for funding, looking for even just resources and education material to give more exposure to their community. And that's something that I would invite all projects to reach out to. At some point, I mean, even from the Scroll ecosystem, I have provided, like this list of communities in Latin America, contact information. Hey, yo, please reach out, like do something with them. Here it is, similar to how I did with you, Emily, back in the day. It was like, yo, there's this whole thing happening in Latin America. Yo, it's there. Like the structure is already there. yeah, and then just evolve based on like the context of each country. Yeah, Wanda, what do you think?
And that's why you see someone like Juan in Ethereum Argentina so popular, everyone saying hello to him. Being
Yes,
around Juan
absolutely.
was like the, and that's just like a consequence of like getting to know people, and that's like the human and the social layer that we call like. And I really like this quote from Naval that is play long-term games with long-term people. You just want to do that in order to, if we are see on the long run, like 5 years, 10 years from now, even more, we want to be playing with the people that have the same vision, are drive by the same principles and goals. It's going to take time, but it's going to build a strong relationship. And being on the side, I'm just like right now, for example, wearing the hat of Ethereum Bogota, we face this like internal discussion. So we have different layer twos providing funds. How do we play there? And my message to them is like just like pick one and develop a relationship and be coherent and don't try to move around. Just like go having like this rent seeking approach of just going
Mm,
to propose to the next new layer, just like as a you want to have friends for the long term or family is like something that's so natural, but sometimes we just like miss that point that you just have to spend time with them, get to know them on the human side, and those strong relationships are going to have a yield in the future with impactful projects.
That's a super good quote. I'm gonna steal it from you, but I guess you stole it from someone else, so
And
joint
there's a
stealer.
great song
Yeah.
I really like. I have this DJ, this called Akira the Don. So he likes to take like famous like speakers and he does music. I will share that with you, and that's the like the title of the song. And he takes some part of the podcast of Naval where he explains this vision of long-term games with long-term people. So you play around when you go to run and just like don't forget that message.
Yeah. Wow, awesome. Well, for all of those you out there, let me tell you, Juan David and Juan are long-term people, so um, I'm glad to be working with you guys in a long-term way. Um, we are almost at time. I want to do some brief wrap-up stuff, so I think I like to end on three takeaways that we kind of learned throughout this whole thing. And there's three of us, so I'm gonna put the onus on each of you to just say one thing. It can be say some one thing you want people to learn from here. But I think what I learned right is like how important having people on the ground in LATAM is. You know, if I actually had to give one piece of advice, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a project that wants to like, I guess like land and expand and empower LATAM communities, if you don't have anyone there, if you're not making hiring decisions around that, don't. Like, it's just not worth your time. You can like try and throw money as much as you want, but if you don't have someone in time, like in your company, like being a local champion and also just able to understand the nuances, you're gonna fail. So that's my takeaway. Maybe that's too spicy, but, like, that's how I feel, and I mean, like, that's why I feel so
yeah,
excited and why Scroll, I think, specifically has so much opportunity is we have people like Juan, and then, like, other people in the company too, if you guys I mean, like, not that Chris is, like, from like, he's based in New York, but he's one of our guys that's helping out, but he, like, native Spanish speaker, like, very familiar, and then we have others in, like, Brazil and another Devrel in Honduras as well, and I don't know, it's like I think we're well positioned because we've made those hiring decisions, right? And that's my takeaway.
yeah,
Yeah.
great. Honda?
Uh, I will go again with this long-term game with long-term people, and it's related to have people underground, but also something that we need to keep thinking about is like, what's the culture in Latin America? I think we share something, but also you have to take the approach of each country because there are different types of maturity. And I also want to bring that don't just focus on like the big countries that are already are happening. Things are happening. So, I mean, Argentina is worldwide known, but maybe to ask what is going on in Paraguay, in Bolivia, for example. I want to do a great shout out to the Bolivian community. It's one of my favorite communities out there. I went to their hackathon last year. I know Scroll was sponsoring this year. I was in Uruguay, but that time I wasn't able to travel there. But for example, those type of communities that in the numbers look small, because there's like a smaller country, but they have a huge potential. And for example, that the Ethereum Bolivia community, we're doing some lobby and advising to the Congress of Bolivia to change the law in order to make crypto legal. Because I remember 1 year ago they were having troubles just like setting a Facebook ads campaign in order to promote their event. Their credit cards were banned because just say Ethereum for the ads. So for example, those countries, they face this type of struggles. So face on that, like the cultural side of each country. I mean, obviously, for example, when we say LATAM, it's not the same to have put in the same bag countries like Bolivia and Colombia, Argentina, Costa Rica, you name it. So my take will be like to having just like iterate on what you said, Emily, to have people on the ground that understand the culture to have long-term results. So that will be my takeaway.
Great. Yeah, Bolivia was amazing. Not gonna lie. It's a clear example of how Ethereum is so insanely important. They're about to reach that inflection point of it might just like turn into like full, blockchain. All everyone transacting on blockchain, which is just more efficient. Um, yeah, I think my takeaway here is that one, you said only one, Emily, but I might give more than one. I'm sorry.
Mm.
Um, I think the first one is that us LATAM folks are our own advocates, and we have that within the Ethereum ecosystem. We do have the power to reach out to bring more collaborations to the region, get more exposure. We need to tell people more about what's going on in our region. Tell them, how good our food is, how nice our people is, how fun we are, how much we needed, um, and invite more people like Emily to join us. Which I'm sure that having you in Argentina changed your whole mindset about what's going on down there, right? So I
Absolutely.
think we are our own advocates, and we need to do more of that. And also, I want to bring up the importance again of being on the ground, of talking to people. If your community's, I don't know, 5 people, and you want to chat, and you want to like get some advice, you want to tell us what you're building, reach out and let's have that conversation. I want to hear how you want to how you want to build your community, what your interests are. Yeah, I think that's super super valuable. I mean, having that door open for us to get that outreach and be able to support it in some way. It doesn't take $1 million. It doesn't take all that money. I don't think Scroll has done that. I don't think from the Scroll side we haven't like come to LATAM with our bags, and we have still managed to make a huge impact in many communities. And I think that's something that is very valuable, and that's not everyone has managed to do. So I think that's a big, big, big thing we have done at Scroll.
Yeah. To that point, the food is amazing. I will say I had too much steak in Argentina. I feel like everyone's like, "Oh, let me take you out to eat, Emily," and I'm like, "Oh, fantastic!" And like naturally, the place they take you out to eat is steak, but it was good. It definitely was very good. And to the point about like bringing bags, I feel like human time is worth significantly more than any dollar amount, right? So when you look at like number of hours versus amount of money, I guess weight, effort significantly higher because effort begets like gain, right? To that point, also my last question that I asked, I think Juan David, you asked me if I'm going to ask you this question, and the answer is yes. If you were a type of soup, What kind of soup would you be and why?
Yeah,
Underneath
that was amazing. I really love the last podcast. Like you were talking with, oh, I forgot her. She was
Hannah.
a chili soup. I mean, I
Yeah, she
remember
was
her. She was
chilly. She
perfect.
was chilly. I was like, oh
So
wow.
for you guys, if you want to remember me, if I am a type of soup, I will be something from Bogota, which is ajiaco. I think I
Mm.
don't know if Juan, yeah, Juan is
Yeah.
like he proved it. It's like a mixture of potato soup, but like it's really local. We have a diversity, huge diversity of potatoes here in Colombia, and one of them is yellow, so it's called uh, criolla potato, and it has chicken, has capers. I really like capers. Like I was just Google that. We said in Spanish alcaparras. She's like really bitter. So I want that contrast, and it has some cream on top of it. So it's like a mixture of different, and it's like the perfect comfort food on a Sunday. You're with your family having ajiaco. So I will eat that type of soup because I want to be around like people and share a good meal. What about you,
Okay.
Juan?
Yeah.
It's gonna get weird for me.
What does that mean?
Yeah, because what I have in mind is really weird. It's a really weird soup. But for the sake of the stream about to end, so there's this soup in Honduras that we call mondongo. Maybe you've heard before, Juanda.
We have it
It's
here as well.
Yeah. So in Honduras, we make it as like a very salty soup. It's based out of cow stomach, and we also put pork feet on it, and it's amazing. And then we put like some veggies and some rice, some tortillas, etc. And I think I am that humble soup. I am not the fancy soup. I am the fancy. I am the soup of the people. I am, you know,
You
yeah.
are the Juan of the
That's what
people,
I am the Juan.
the
You're
Juan of
one
the
of
people.
many. That's so funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. So now next time I
Juan,
see
Juan
you, I'm
for
just gonna call you
president of LATAM.
cow stomach,
Maybe
pig
Like,
feet. Yeah. No, I
if
mean,
it's
okay, I'm
great.
getting hungry. Actually, I feel like I should always do this too, like wrap up, like, what type of soup are you? And give me a recipe. But I don't know if you guys have like, I'm not sure how easy it'll be for me to find cow stomach. Actually, pig's feet is a
Your
very common thing I have for my birthday, so
For
we're
your
good there.
birthday?
Yeah, I actually don't know if this is like a Chinese tradition or if my family tradition kind of thing, but I think it's like Asian, where on birthdays you eat zujiao, which is pig's feet, and then really, really, really long, thin noodles. So like the
Mm.
long, thin noodles, I think is like for long life, and then the pig feet, I'm not sure, but I feel like I don't know. Gelatin is good for skin? Question mark.
So you can walk the path of life
Yeah, yeah,
forever.
yeah. Cool. No,
Yeah,
okay.
amazing.
what about you,
Happy to.
Emily? Did
What kind
you?
Yeah,
of
what's
soup
the
would I
soup?
would
Yeah.
be? Oh God. You know, I always ask this question and I've never thought that someone would turn it back on me.
Frog
Do
soup?
you like ew. Actually, I don't know. I've had frog. It just tastes like chicken, but like I'm at the point where I like frogs too much that it would like hurt my feelings if I ate a frog. But I'd probably still eat a frog anyways, because it's not uncommon, I guess. What kind of soup would I be? I don't know if I identified this with personally, but I'll just tell you I really like tomato soup. Anything with tomatoes, because my favorite things in life are I like frogs and I like tomatoes. Um, so what that means is I don't know, I'm a burst of flavor. Let's go with that. And with that, I guess we'll close our project Sleeping on Latam. The answer is yes, no, maybe so. I mean, I don't think we are, and I don't think project should, right?
I don't think we are, and I don't think Project should. I agree with that. Let's go.
Okay.
And Scroll is definitely is not sleep on Latam. Thank you guys for having the. You are not only. I was thinking put your money where your mouth is, but I am taking from this conversation also put the hours where your mouth is, and that's much more valuable than just like throwing money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
takes
Cool.
a lot of time. Trust
Well,
me.
thank
My
you
wife
so
hates
much.
me for it. My wife doesn't approve.
Well, tell your wife thank you. LATAM thanks for your time.
The people need Juan from the people, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why.
Yeah,
Of
there you
course.
go.
Okay,
I'll send her this
cool.
clip.
Well, thank you guys so much for
Thank you,
joining.
Emily. Thank you,
If anyone
Wanda.
wants to reach out, I guess to
Gracias.
EthKipu, what's your Twitter handle? We can like throw it up if anyone wants to get connected.
Yes, I mean we can throw it out. It's like Juan David, like Juan, like till the ID, and just like replace the ID with the ETH.
Okay,
Wanda Bet. It's great.
cool.
I don't know how to pronounce that,
Oh,
right?
Is it
But
this?
there you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Fantastic. Okay.
Emily, mine is terrible. Can I skip?
Yeah, it's like Juan C0X.
Yeah, I got banned several times on Twitter. I'm just so sorry.
Is it this
It's
one?
actually it's that V2 because I've
Oh
been banned like several times.
no!
So,
Why?
yeah, I don't know. Twitter hates me,
Okay.
so I keep running out of like usernames because I just don't know. I'm not creative. So yeah. Anyways, thank you.
We have one for you, Juan for the people.
Let's see. I'm gonna
Or
search.
the Juan of the people. I don't know how to
Juan.
pronounce it. El Juan de
Even
la
the
gente.
Juan. El Juan. El Juan. We can get creative here. The memes.
Okay. Well, goodbye. Dude, I can't pronounce the soups you guys were called. If you were like goodbye chili soup, that's super easy. But see
The
you guys
Right,
mondongo.
Mondongo and Ajiaco.
And ajiaco.
Right.
Goodbye, Mondongo and Ajiaco.
Yes.
There you go.
You nailed it.
Oh, yay. Okay, I got it. We've adopted